So Usami is discovering that the Samurian spaceship is powered by cursed energy. Also, the name of it is called the Nanox. We found this out in the Samuria flashback 2 chapters ago, because on Samuria, they have like this special ore called Mull. And if you use cursed energy on it, you can convert it into like different types of energy. And when Maru and Cross used cursed energy on Mull, they developed something with even greater purity. And they like quickly were able to make a spaceship out of it. And one way or another, with the cursed energy in the Mull ship, it's able to, like, I don't know, bend space-time or something, or just ambiguously travel interstellarly. But they basically can't let this information leave the hands of Jujutsu headquarters, because if cursed users or other countries were to discover this, they might try to manipulate cursed energy again outside of, like, Jujutsu, either through sorcerers from Japan or the Samurians themselves, or just trying to figure out how the Samurians manipulate the Mull with cursed energy, because, you know, if you could use that technology on Earth, you would send them even further into the future than they already are. We also saw that back in the original series, Gege set up this plot line that essentially went nowhere, where Kenjaku revealed cursed energy to like other countries. We mainly saw him talking to like the US and China, and that led to the whole invasion of the Culling Games and the US Army trying to steal sorcerers so that they could harvest their cursed energy. But apparently that research stalled, so that's like Gege, I guess, explaining why that story went nowhere. But since this is being mentioned, it's for sure going to lead to something, or at least I hope so. But in this case, I will give Gege the benefit of the doubt, and I do think that this is going to lead to the Mull being used by Earthlings in some way, either the Japanese cursed users, or, you know, whatever, maybe another country. That would be interesting. I assume it's just going to lead to weapons being made, and I think that would be pretty cool, you know, like a Mull gun that fires cursed energy or something like that. We only really saw technology being used with cursed energy from like Mechamaru in that one sequence where he fights Kenjaku and Mahito. And it makes you think like, man, a high school kid was able to develop all that. If like the countries actually tried, they could have made some serious weapons. But the research stalled, guys. There's no point digging any deeper into that. So then we come back to this dinner party that they're trying to have with the higher ups of the Samurians, where they're going to feed them takoyaki, because I guess they feel that that's like maybe the best choice for accessibility from Japanese food, maybe. But then we go into this sequence where Tsurugi and Maru go out to find this rare mutated octopus that only has one tentacle because it's the most flavorful or whatever. But it's like underneath a reef that's guarded by jellyfish, and they like compare the size of them, which for sure is supposed to be like a euphemism of like, you know, a measuring contest between men, because, you know, that's essentially what a man versus man has always been since the dawn of time, I guess. Hey guys, also, can we please try to get 3,000 likes on this video? That might be way too much for my Modulo reviews, but I do think you could do it. Please grab that phone, hit that like button. It would help me out so much. And I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. But after this, Maru goes on to explain that the Samurian warriors are essentially just their version of sorcerers, as we saw in the flashback. Even though they don't operate the same exact way as like Jujutsu sorcerers on Earth do. In fact, we haven't really seen the Samurians do much. We've only really seen what Maru could do. And then I guess we saw, what, a single punch from Dora, and then Cross like put Maru to sleep. I mean, I guess Gege is purposely doing this because eventually we will see what the Samurians are fully capable of, and I'm sure they're all beasts to some extent. But it's also explained here that their Jujutsu, or Roluuka, is said to be a power bestowed upon them by their Rumelian ancestor, by the Kallian, who were sent by the gods. So that's really interesting, and that is way more insight than we ever got in the original series as to where cursed energy in Jujutsu comes from. Gege never fully tells us or explains it to any extent. I mean, if you're super hardcore, you can like look at the timelines going through the chapters and kind of see that like, okay, Jujutsu kind of started with Tengen, but there was other people before Tengen that had Jujutsu, and that's as far as it goes. And other than that, cursed energy is like born from negativity or whatever inside of Japanese people, and then maybe some Africans, and that's it. We're never gonna get any more backstory to how cursed energy came to be on Earth unless Gege, I guess, decides to explain it in the later chapters in this series. But at least we're getting some lore on Samurai Sumerians. And that being said, I don't even know if this is true or if this is just what Maru believes is true, because cursed energy was apparently given to the Romillions by the Kalyan, who were sent by the gods. And it's like, what does that mean? Who are the gods? We'll probably never know. And how do the Kalyans give cursed energy? And where do the Kalyans actually truly come from? Honestly, we probably even shouldn't waste our time on this and just take it for face value and just accept that for what it is. Also, we find out that the Sumerian women, or just, I guess, Romillion women, they can't use cursed energy or Roluka because they were taught that men are granted this power because they can't bear children and that they should use it to protect women and children because they can't. And it is what it is. It's even kind of addressed in a meta way somewhat in this sequence because they talk about how they don't let the women off of the spaceship because they're worried about them. And Tsurugi says, it's not just being overprotective, but downright patriarchal, huh? But I get it though. It's like, do you get it? Also, Tsurugi brings up another good point. He's like, but isn't it tough for men who aren't jujutsu sorcerers and women who can't bear children to live in society with those values? And then Maru says, I didn't mean to make you misunderstand. Anyone who works to protect Rumel is respected, even if they're not warriors and even if they're not men, of course. You know, like Jabaloma. So Jabaloma isn't a sorcerer, I guess. He's just like a wise council guy. There's more to him beneath the surface. I'm not, completely saying that he's a bad guy like I was before the flashback, but there's still something going on with this guy. But then we come to the takoyaki dinner party and we actually see Romelian women, I think for the first time. I don't even think we saw them in the flashback. We kind of saw what was implied to be Deborah's sister, but she's a Diskunte, but still just Sumerian overall. By the way, the Diskunte women are allowed to be warriors, or should I say are capable of being them, not allowed. Oh, speaking of her, we find out that the Diskunte tribe put a death curse on her, and it activates when the chieftain dies or when Deborah defies the chieftain's orders. This is in reference to the flashback that we got a couple chapters back when we saw that they essentially forced Deborah to fight Dura in that war duel thing between the Diskunte and the Romelians, and it was revealed that the Diskunte took Deborah's sister as a hostage to force him to have to kill Dura in this fight. So now we're coming back to this and we're finding out about the whole death curse thing. Now, what is the death curse? I guess it's going to be explained fully later on. It seems like it's like a binding vow or something, or maybe it's a curse technique, or maybe it's a curse. But their plan is to use the black rope to cancel this out. The black rope, the thing that Miguel had way back in the day. One of like two, I guess, cursed objects that could shut down curse techniques, the other being the reverse horn of heaven. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go try to get that for you, but it's not going to be easy. So I guess that's going to be a future plot line. Them going to Africa, and then I guess we're going to see what happened with Miguel's lineage, or maybe we'll see more African sorcerers, or maybe that might lead to Africa getting their hands on the Romelian technology, possibly. I don't know. Does Gege want to paint Africa as bad guys? I thought he more so wanted to just paint Americans as that. But anyway, it seems like the takoyaki dinner party's going well until we come to the end of this chapter and we see the Romelians back on the spaceship, and we see one of the elders coming up, and he's like, they're dangerous. I saw the Earthlings, the Japanese. I saw them killing a Kalyan. And he's crying from his third eye. Now, this is significant because of the exposition that we got in the flashback a couple chapters ago when it said that the third eye is an essential organ for every being on Samuria, and it is the source of all of their Rololuka or cursed energy. However, only Romelians shed tears from their third eyes when a Kalyan dies. The only times other Sumerians shed tears from their eyes are when they are born and when they die. So I guess this means that a Kalyan has literally been killed here. Because I know naturally you would think, oh, this is a case of mistaken identity, because we saw a couple chapters back when Takeda had summoned his Shikigami guardian cursed spirit thing. Maru mistaken that for a Kalyan. Although maybe we're going to come back to that, maybe it wasn't mistaken, but it seems like that's not the case here, because it straight up told us that the Romelians can only shed a tear from their third eye when they're born, die, or when a Kalyan dies. So either this guy's about to die, and this is why he's crying, or a Kalyan literally died. And that brings the question of how did a Kalyan die, because Kalyans shouldn't be on Earth, right? They didn't say anything about them bringing Kalyans with them. If anything, it's implied that the Kalyans kind of have to stay on Samuria. Now, either they did bring some Kalyans with them and they got off the ship somehow and they scurried around and some Japanese guy killed them, or there's way more to this lore than what we knew, because maybe there are Kalyans on Earth, and for some reason, the humans don't know that they're Kallians, or maybe cursed spirits are Kallians, but then it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because cursed spirits are a result of cursed energy from the humans. So I don't know what this means exactly. I think it would be cool if there are Kallians on Earth, and that could be how Gege tries to come full circle with this and be like, yeah, there's Kallians on Earth, but humans can't see them or something. And even sorcerers can't see them. Only the Romelians can see them. And that Kallians are the result of cursed energy infecting humanity? Possibly. Also, now that I think about it, it's very possible that one of the Romelians smuggled a Kallian on the ship. Maybe later they figured that, oh, I can just release this thing to the Japanese or something and have them kill it. And then that could be a reason to force this war on the Japanese or something. But anyway, this is probably going to be one of the catalysts that start the beginning of this war, maybe. Or maybe it starts a Cold War. I don't really think that Deborah is going to care about this because he's a Discunte and the Kallians aren't a part of their religion. If anything, it seems like the Discunte are kind of annoyed by the Kallians. But the Romelians here are obviously going to be very upset about that. As we see, this guy with the long hair, he doesn't like humanity. He never has. He wanted to vote against joining with them. He wanted to like take over the Japanese, if anything. So maybe this is going to like cause them to have like another vote, because we saw that they did this vote in the previous chapter to whether they want to integrate with humanity or just overthrow them with the Japanese. And they voted to, you know, be peaceful with them for now. So maybe this is going to change that. And there might be a civil war amongst the Sumerians or something. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. If you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.